I am so excited to have you here today, Bas, to talk about your amazing life. Let's start with the fact that you're a 3-time MMA world champion in Japan for the organization Pancrase? Pancrase?
Yeah, that's good. That's
okay,
good. It's good. You didn't butcher it. A lot of people say pancreas. You know, the thing from the body, whatever they call that. I can't pronounce that.
What weight class was that?
There were no weight classes, and there were also no rounds, which was funny, which I found that out on the day of the fight. When I asked how many rounds, the guy goes like, oh, we fight only 1 round. So I go, hey, that's nice. How many minutes? And he goes, 30. I go, hey. But of course I wasn't smiling on the inside. I was freaking out.
Because 1 round, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's it. And that came right after they told me that my opponent was 42 pounds heavier than me. So I go also, nice, I'm in great shape. But inside, I was looking at my manager and go, dude, what you got me into here?
So that's what's really going through your head at that point.
Exactly, yes. No, you try to act outside that you're all fine, but inside I wasn't that happy. It was the first time I flew in a plane from Holland going to Japan, 13-hour flight. You come in a complete different country and then suddenly you find all these things out. You know, yeah, it's kind of scary, right?
But I mean, after that, obviously you did well. In 1999, you were the UFC heavyweight champion,
yes.
The first European UFC champion.
That's right.
Your last 22 fights, you went undefeated. I mean, that is a crazy way to finish out your career.
No, I've been very, very fortunate with that. I think that God gave me some injuries, thankfully, you know, which I hated at the time, but it forced me automatically to stop because I see some other guys, they keep fighting and then slowly but surely they start losing. And then they were such a great fighters and they wrap up their career with like 12 losses or something. It's just...
Get out while you're ahead, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because in 2015, you were inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. You had your own talk show about MMA called Inside MMA that went on for 9 years?
9 years,
Oh my gosh.
400.
You won a bunch of other TV shows and movies and commercials and video games. I mean, you have done so much.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. Very fortunate also Grand Theft Auto 4. I was in that game. It's a great game. Go to the safe house. For the people at home, go to the safe house, put on the TV, zap through the channels. There's a TV show called In the Men's Room. It's a show that I have in that game. I think it's actually one of my best works I ever did. I'm a complete psychopath in that movie.
Okay, well, I'm gonna power up my PlayStation as soon as I'm home because I have to see that. But let's go back to the beginning a little bit. I heard that as a kid, you suffered from severe asthma and a skin disease called eczema.
Yeah.
How did that affect you?
Well, it was hard, you know, because the skin disease looked horrible. I had my family, for instance, they were sending old bed sheets because they had to rip them in pieces, and then my mother could mummify me. That's what I called it. I looked like a mummy after. It's very prominent on my hands, eczema, on my arms, in my neck. So I was always wearing turtlenecks, long sleeves, white gloves I had to wear to go to school. But, you know, every night creamed on it, and then they mummified me, as she called it. But I would rip it up in the middle of the night again because it would start itching so bad. She had to redo it again. So there was a lot of work. And needless to say, kids don't want to spend time with you, right? I mean, they think it's contagious. As for my asthma, I remember taking 15 pills 3 times a day, 45 pills a day. And I had an inhaler, so I could maintain it a little bit. But then every 6 weeks, I would say, I had an asthma attack for like 7-8 days in bed, which I couldn't even eat because I couldn't breathe. You know, I laugh always about people who go like, oh, my asthma. I say, oh no, try to go sitting like this for 24/7 for 8 days straight. That was really hard.
That is so hard, especially at that age. So as a kid, how did you deal with that?
Well, you know, I was always thinking that there's other people who have it worse than me. For instance, the eczema on my hands, I had a very bad hair. I knew there were people out there who were covered from head to toe. And the same with that asthma attack I had for like 8 days. I knew there were people out there who had it 365 days a year. So I thought, well, at least I don't have it like them.
Well, that is a super positive mindset to have, especially from such a young age.
Yeah.
You said that because of all of this, you were kind of having to deal with bullies.
Yes.
How did you deal with the bullying?
You know, it was hard, you know, on a daily basis. Constantly, people say horrible things. Kids say horrible things, you know, leper, call you a leper. Watch out, your ears don't fall off. Little fun comments like that. So, yeah, that was a little hard.
So would you say that the bullying stopped or that just as time went on?
Well, that was actually a good story. I sneaked, when I was 12 years old, I sneaked into a movie theater with my brother. It was a movie 17 years and older. It was Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon. And we're watching the movie, and I see this little guy, and I was a little guy at the time as well because of my asthma, I couldn't eat a lot, a skinny guy, and I see Bruce Lee beating the crap out of everybody. And I go, wait a minute, if I become like that guy, right, then I might take care of my bully. So I came home, asked my parents, can I please do martial arts? And it took me 2 years to convince them because they always thought it was violence. But finally, after 2 years, they allowed me to do martial arts. And I was very lucky. I had these beautiful neighbor girls. And one of them was dating the coolest guy in town, Xavier. And in Holland, you would say Xavier. And this guy brought me under the swing, took me under the swing, and he brought me to the adult classes. So I was 14 years old, I was training with the adults. And within months, suddenly I started beating the adults with back kicks to the body, and I knocked out a guy with a head kick. And I overheard these guys talking about me in the dressing room. Man, did you see that kid, Bas? He dropped Jack with a back kick, and everybody's laughing. Man, dude, that kid has a lot of talent. And you know, that was the first time in my life that I heard good things say about me. So as a kid, you hear adults saying great things. Suddenly you realize, wait a minute, maybe I am good. Yeah. And then one of the best days in my life came. And I was riding my bicycle on the street, and there he came, the biggest bully in town, and the biggest bully in my school, Shaki was his name, with like 6 of his friends on a bicycle as well. Everybody rides a bicycle in Holland. And they, hey, leper, watch out, your ears don't fall off, whatever they're screaming. This time I shouted something back. And I heard them laugh, and sure enough, I looked back, and they made a U-turn, they started to chase me. And that's where I decided, you know, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I stopped my bike, put it on the stand. I said, I'm going to face it this time. So they surrounded me with their bikes, you know, and I always have to laugh about this because in these badass movies, you know, in the middle of the night, these guys fight to the death and they're surrounded by cars and the headlights are the lighting for the fight, you know. Yeah. This was during the day, it was with little kids, you know, who surrounded me on the bike. And then of course, Shaki came and he started bouncing his chest against my chest, whatever that meant. And he challenging me. Come on, Rutten, hey, leper, you want to hit me? Come on, hit me, leper. And I go, okay. So hit him, knocked out, bullying stopped 95%.
Instantaneously, just an instant knockout.
Instant knockout.
So would this be the advice you would give to other kids who are suffering from bullying?
No, that's not right. Nowadays they all say you have to try to do it with words. Mm-hmm. Trust me, I tried an insanely amount of words, but with words, but that doesn't work. One punch though, you know, took care of it, and 95% of the bullying stopped. Now, bullies are not the toughest guys. If you really think about it and break it down, they're actually pretty weak. You know, I mean, they pick on the weak kids, you know, and then preferably they like to do it with the group. Don't go after the tough guys. Don't go after the champion wrestler of the linebacker in school, you know, because they get their butt handed to them. No. They pick a weak kid and then they do it preferably with the group. So if you think about it, they're not big heroes, and the language they speak, unfortunately, is violence. And, you know, so you have to respond in that kind of language in order to get through them. Now, of course, I can't say, okay, kids, start beating up your bullies or bring a weapon to school. Of course, I would never say that. But, you know, I would say as a parent, put them on martial arts. Mm-hmm. You know, at least so they have a skill. So then first they can try it with words. And then if words don't work anymore, they can at least defend themselves if the bully attacks him, which is that case, of course, it's self-defense.
It instills confidence.
Instills confidence, and the bully knows cause and effect. Mm-hmm. I bet you that Shaki, the guy that I knocked out, I don't think he was a bully afterwards anymore. Yeah. Because he knew, like, wait a minute, there's other kids out there who can do exactly the same thing.
That's amazing. Hopefully for Shaki this is the case, because I've heard, and I do hope it's true, that bullying is actually on a decline.
Yeah, I heard that too, and that's a good thing. You know, I believe that has to do with social media, right? Because now bullies will be exposed, and now everybody knows they're a bully, and of course they don't want that. So that could be one of the only few good things that comes out of social media nowadays.
Yeah, it is hard for kids because everybody's just so consumed with likes and followers. It's a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of pressure. It's so sad.
So would you say after you knocked out your bully is when you truly got invested in martial arts?
I would say so, but there was a problem because I broke his nose in the process. Oh, God, so that meant that the police, he had to go to the hospital, the doctor, the police was informed. They showed up at my mom and dad's doorstep. And of course they took me off right away. It was confirmed, you know, it was violence. So, but you know, I started training myself. I watched movies from Bruce Lee. I watched videotapes, karate fights, boxing fights. And I just started imitating that, going to the library, watching books, reading books, looking at pictures. I've always been very good. Like what I can see, most of the time I can actually do as well.
So essentially you kind of trained yourself. That's amazing. And then later in life, you made it into a profession.
How crazy is that?
That is crazy. That's awesome. Yeah. And you did track and field too, correct?
Yes, I did it as well. It's my parents, my dad's side of the family, I mean, they're all athletes and gymnasts. And my dad was a big track and field guy. Actually, was a big fan. I wanted to become the first Dutch Bruce Jenner. You know, now of course known as Caitlyn Jenner, but at the time he was the world champ, the gold medalist decathlon in 1976, I believe. And decathlon, that was something to me I always liked. Maybe now I'm thinking about mixed martial arts. I put all the martial arts together. That was the same in track and field. I like to do all these kind of different things. Pole vault, you know, I wasn't really focusing on that. Same as with the hurdles and of course the 1500 meters. That was a bad one for me because of my asthma.
So was it your asthma that inspired the idea for the O2Trainer?
Exactly, yeah. You know, it's another great thing that came out of the disease, right? First I come up with this fighting style and become a champion, and now suddenly I came up with an invention. You know, what happened was that if I would be in bed for a week and had an asthma attack and I would redo my track and field, restart my track and field, I would break my running times. And that was so weird.
That's weird. That's really weird.
Very weird. I have no clue. What was it, you know? And I started thinking, what is it? Maybe the medication, you know, because I took a lot of cortisones. But,
was it the medication?
No, I don't think it was. What happened was I went to the doctor, and every month or so I had to go to the doctor. And then somebody from the doctor's office would teach me how to breathe, because a lot of kids, and a lot of adults as well, they breathe the incorrect way. They're using their shoulders. And as a kid, you know, for your asthma, you really need to breathe with your core. And when I was waiting in the dressing room, in the room at the doctor's office, I saw this poster on the wall. It was a drawing of a pair of lungs. And it explained what asthma was. And as a kid, you always think that there's asthma in your lungs, an infection in your entire lung, but it is actually not true. It's the airways, the bronchial tubes that go to the lungs. Those are infected. And I looked at the poster and it showed me an infected airway, which was closed, and it showed me a healthy airway. And I go like, whoa, the light bulb went off.
Explain more.
Well, I realized that I was in bed for 7-8 days working out my inspiratory muscles because I was pulling air in with resistance to that infected area. So now when the infection was gone, it was much easier for me to breathe because I've been breathing for 8 days, 24/7 a day through an infected bronchial tube.
So you're saying that you made your lungs stronger?
Yes and no. I made the muscles responsible for breathing in stronger. Listen, I didn't know this at the time, but you know, you always think that your lungs are doing the work, but it's not. Actually, your body is responsible for your lungs to open and to close. And with your body, I mean your diaphragm, your core, your intercostal muscles, which are the muscles between your rib cage and on your back as well.
Well, can you explain that a little more? Because I've never heard of any of those muscles.
Listen, I had no clue about it either myself. So, yeah. We all think that our chest expands because we fill it up with air, right? Yeah, well, it's actually the other way around. It's really weird. How do I say this? Your body expanding your chest while opening your lungs. There's a vacuum between the body and the lungs. Maybe I can. Okay, imagine this. I have a balloon here, a rubber balloon, and imagine those are my lungs. And I put glue on my hands, and I put my hands on on that balloon. And now when I'm opening them up, the balloon opens up. That's actually what a vacuum does. Instead of the glue, it's a vacuum between the body and the lungs. So if you expand your chest, that's how you breathe in. You can really easily test this. If you, for instance, close your mouth, you breathe out, and then you close your nose and try, so you can breathe in, try to expand your chest and your belly. You can't.
That's so weird.
Weird, right? Because that's how I figured it out as well. No, it's really your chest doing the breathing for you.
So what you're saying is that you were strengthening the muscles that are responsible for expanding your chest.
Exactly. And by the way, I was 14 years old at that time. I started thinking, hey, why don't I start breathing through something, you know, that has a tiny hole in it? Like, for instance, you know, bowls, washers, you know, I have always one on my keychain here. As a friendly reminder, these things.
Oh, gosh.
These things I literally was putting in front of my teeth. And I try to breathe through it. But of course, it's very hard because when do you open your mouth and when you breathe in? But you know, I already thought that is breathing in with resistance. I should do something with it.
But that can be kind of dangerous, right? To try to be breathing with a small metal object in your mouth.
Oh, heck yeah, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous because, you know, if you open your teeth and your mouth a little bit too much and you breathe in with power and that thing shoots in your lung, well, that's it. It's end game. You're dead. That's why I always tell, but people in class, a lot of people, when they do conditioning, they have gum in their mouth. And because the dumbest thing there is. How do I bring the message across with them? That's what I always ask. And I heard about this story. It's a horrible story to say, but it will bring the point across. Trust me. It was this 8-year-old girl who got a tooth pulled by a dentist, and he pulled it out, and by accident he dropped it, and it went into her lungs, and she died on the operating table.
That's awful.
And that could be a gum as well. So.
Well, I definitely will not be chewing my gum on the treadmill anymore.
Yeah,
so thank
smart.
you for that cautionary tale, because that's horrifying.
Yep.
So when did you decide to turn this idea into an actual device?
Well, I knew that if I had something that could control the air intake, I could slowly but surely build up the muscles responsible for my breathing. You know how it goes. You go to parties, and there's always one person who goes, oh, I got a great idea for an invention. And they tell the idea, and then somebody else tells an idea, and then I always would tell the idea that I have. We would call it the Ruttenizer. Last name is Rutten, and the Ruttenizer, that was going to be the name for this product.
It's got a nice ring to it.
It's cool,
I
right?
like it. I buy it.
And so when I started explaining to them, everybody told me, hey, dude, you got to make that. That's a really good idea for an invention. So then suddenly the Ultimate Fighter came. The Ultimate Fighter is a TV show. It's from the Ultimate Fighting Championships. It's where two fighters, professional fighters, they face each other. They have a team. They're training a team. The team fights each other, and whoever wins the most fights, wins the most amount of fights at the end of the season, is going to be the winner. And then also the coaches fight each other. Now, one of these coaches, it's a crazy show, but actually it's the show that put the UFC on the map. And one of these coaches was Vanderlei Silva. Vanderlei Silva is like this animal from Brazil, really strong fighter, and he was training his students with snorkel devices. And I know what they were doing. I hear some swimmers are doing this as well, because you're rebreathing carbon dioxide, and it might trigger a little bit of a red blood cell count in your body, so you get more oxygen in your blood. That's what they're trying to do. But anyway, when that happened, I wasn't watching the show, but my telephone went crazy. I got 2 phone calls, like 4 text messages from people. Hey, dude, the Ruttenizer that you're always talking about, you got to make that thing, because they're breathing. Somebody might come up with the idea. So I teamed up with a guy I knew, and who I knew could build something like that. I explained to him exactly what I wanted, and he made a prototype. I started training with the prototype, and 3 weeks later, my asthma was gone.
Wow. Wait, so you still had asthma?
Oh, yeah. I had to carry an inhaler with me everywhere I want, because an asthma patient, if you simply sneeze violently, your lungs will close and you have to open them up. A lot of asthma patients have the same.
I can't imagine competing with your asthma. That must have been really stressful.
It is, but what happens is you in the locker room when you're working out, this is called exercise induced. A lot of asthma patients will have this as well. So Imagine you ask an asthma patient to take a sprint for 20 seconds. He will stop after 20 seconds, wait a minute, 2 minutes, lungs will close, you have to spray them open. Once they're open, it's okay. So in the dressing room, in the locker room before the fight, I would just train really hard, my lungs would close, then I spray them open, and once they're open, they're going to be good for a couple hours. Still, of course, I would always give my inhaler to my manager, and I say, hey, make sure you have this, because if it happens during the fight, maybe you can sneak one in here and there.
So it never happened during a fight?
No, thankfully it isn't.
Well, and I heard you say manager. Did you mean trainer?
No, manager, actually, because, wow, you listen good.
I catch every detail.
I train myself. I always train myself. So I've been taught the striking game, but the whole submission game and the wrestling as self-taught. So I never had a coach.
That is amazing, because obviously what you did in martial arts is why we're sitting here today talking.
Yeah, crazy, yeah?
You said after 3 weeks, you didn't have to use your inhaler anymore.
Yes. And what happened then, I sent one, because then I got my other prototypes in. And right away I sent one to my friend in Holland, who I know has asthma. And 8 days later, I'm not kidding, not lying, he calls me and he says, hey, I want to sell them in Europe. I goes, why? He said, my asthma is gone. I go, it's crazy.
So you're basically curing asthma.
Yes, it is, and it is huge, but medically I can't really claim that yet. You can only look at the reviews from all the people that are using the O2Trainer, because Tests like that are a lot of money. I need like 100 people. I had to pay this like $60,000, $80,000. And unfortunately, that money is still not here for that. But you can read reviews from people. Their asthma is either gone or they use their inhaler 90% less. Oh, and I have to mention this, of course, because a lot of people go, yeah, but I have allergies. That's the same that I have. Like, for instance, when I was a kid and I would play with a dog for 30 minutes, I was allergic to to animals with hair, with fur. And to pollen as well. Now, so if I would play with a dog for, let's say, half an hour, the next week I will be in bed with that asthma attack. A lot of people have that as well. So, but you can't fix that allergy. But what does happen is you make it so strong that you pull straight through. Like last year, I was hiking with my dog, and it's a really steep hike, but it was July and there was a lot of pollen. And while I was hiking and going up, suddenly my lungs start acting up. I start getting, because of the allergy, I start wheezing, and I go, oh man, I didn't have an inhaler anymore. I don't even have one, so I didn't have one with me. And I go, I hope this is going to be okay. And I figured, oh, let's see. And I kept walking up, and I realized I just pulled straight through it. It was so you're wheezing, but you're just pulling straight through it because it's much stronger now.
So you don't need an inhaler or cortisones or anything like that anymore.
Exactly. But again, like I said, I want to know the people at home. I can't medically prove that yet. I just need to have that big test done. I can tell you one thing though. If an asthma patient buys an O2Trainer for his asthma, if he shows me time lapses of the breathing exercise doing that, and his asthma is not gone in 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to give him his money back.
Wow. So what is the breathing exercise?
It's an exercise. It's a weird way to doing, I brought an O2Trainer, of course, because I know this was going to come up.
Special treat.
Yeah, look at that. So this thing, you're going to have to do 30 repetitions with a day, which is going to take you under 4 minutes. I actually do it in 2.5 minutes, so I add a few reps in order to stay over 3 minutes of work time. On the video, you can see how this breathing exercise exactly works, but of course,
can you show it to us now?
I'm going to show it to you. So what I'm doing is I'm breathing out while I'm leaning forward. And then when I'm all cleared, all the air out of my lungs, I put it against my mouth. I start breathing in, and I try to time it in such a way that the last part of my inhale is at the part where I'm exactly straight up again. Okay. So I go... And you're really focusing on these muscles right here. Actually, you can tell, look, this muscle here, how thick it's getting.
Yeah.
It wasn't before. I've been doing this for a while now. This muscle is really the muscle to pull the air in with.
So it's a nice core workout too.
It's a really hard work. I don't do zero
obviously.
apps. Never. You can ask my entire gym. I never did any single app. I don't do that.
So what is the leaning over do in the breathing exercise?
Well, the leaning over is once I crunch my belly, I'm going to be forced to breathe in while using my back muscles. So because what I was talking about, the intercostal muscles, that's the muscles between the rib cage, your diaphragm, but also your back muscles are breathing. So this way you focus on the back, and then while you're sitting up, you start coming more to the front. Thus, when doing this in one time, you're working out your back muscles and you're working out your front muscles.
Well, that's crazy because I would never even think that I was using my back muscles when I'm breathing.
Hey, listen, I didn't know either. Once I started with the O2Trainer, all these crazy things come up. So I wanted to come back to that one thing, So what I'm saying is that every person who buys an O2Trainer for their asthma, and he shows me time lapses of videos doing, I don't need to see the whole 3-4 minutes, of 30 videos, and the asthma is not gone, I'll give them the money back. Why
the videos? Is it because you think that people will cheat?
No, I know they will cheat. Come on.
It's human nature.
Because if I tell you I can do this, just only 4 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Everybody at home goes like, 4 minutes a day, I can do this easy. Yeah, right. We all think of us much more than we really are. It's a workout. Look at the New Year's resolutions. 8% of the people actually finish their New Year's resolution. I'm actually posting time lapses of myself every single day, and it's on the private Facebook account that I have for the O2Trainers called Bas Rutten's O2 Bootcamp. And then hopefully me showing that breathing exercise is going to inspire people to, hey, if he can do it every day, maybe I should do it every day.
So how do you know that you're getting stronger?
Well, I time my sessions, my 30 repetitions. So many people are not going to believe what I'm going to tell you right now, but you can go back all the way in my private Facebook account that I have, and you can actually see that I'm not lying right now. So in May 2018, it took me 3 minutes and 45 seconds to complete my 30 repetitions.
Okay, and where are you at right now?
Right now, with that same setting, it will be 1 minute and 5 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
That's
crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's nearly 2.5 minutes faster.
That's over 70% faster, you know. And I just did that test to find out, for fun, what I would do it now with, you know, because you use the O2Trainer different. Okay, so let me explain. This comes all with 14 different caps, different size holes in there, you know. And you look for a cap which... with it will take you about under 4 minutes to complete your 30 repetitions. Okay. Once you found that cap, for most people it's number 9, 10 or 11. Personally, I started with 11. They all have numbers on there, so you can easily find what cap is for you. Now, number 11 has a hole in there from 4 millimeter. You know, once you start breathing with it and you go below 3 minutes, then you go to cap number 12. Cap number 12 has a hole in it of 3 millimeter, just 1 millimeter smaller. And then you lather, rinse, repeat, so to say. So you keep doing it, and every week you time your session, and suddenly you realize you're going under 3 minutes again because you're getting stronger and stronger. Once you go under 3 minutes, go to number 13. And then eventually you're going to this one, which is number 14. This is the hardest one I have, and I actually do this in 2 minutes and 25 seconds. So wow. I still want to make a 3-minute workout out of it, so I add like 6-7 reps.
So you can use the O2Trainer while you work out, kind of like, you know, you see those people wearing the masks when they're working out?
Yeah, that was actually the main way of using it in the beginning. But then my lawyer called me one day and he read a review about my competition. Mm-hmm. And he asked me if I read the review. And I said, no, I didn't, but it's a bad review, right? He goes, how do you know that? I said, well, controlling the air in and out is a bad idea, at least when you do it simultaneously. Mm-hmm. So if you do a breathing out workout first, and then afterwards you work out with the O2Trainer, that's actually good for you. Belisa's read it. She's a world-renowned breathing expert. She focuses on breathing out. And just that you know, she's in love with the O2Trainer. I mean, it's really great what she thinks of the O2Trainer. Also, she wrote a really great book, Breathing for Warriors, I believe is the name of the book. If people are really interested in how to perform the very best with their lungs, you should get that book. Anyway, come back to that story. So I asked my lawyer, after he told me that it was a bad review, hey, please find that guy and see if you can get his phone number. And I contact him and then ask him if I can send him an O2Trainer. He goes, dude, do you want to do that? So what if he writes a bad review about it? I said, we're curing asthma. It's not going to be a bad review. Trust me on this. So he calls the guy, mentions my name, and the guy goes, oh, Bas Rutten, O2Trainer. We're already using that. Now, this guy trains 4 Olympic gold medalists, a silver medalist. So I met this guy, and now suddenly I have 18 published medical journals about what inspiratory muscle training does for you. And just so you know, and I always mention this, when I say published medical journal, it means it's clinically proven. It's not like some products say it's clinically tested, because what is the result of that test? I mean, if it would have been clinically proven, it would have said clinically proven. Yeah.
So you must have been really happy to have met that guy.
Oh, I was freaking out. I mean, now I have this, all the data to back it up with. I mean, what more can I have? You know, and then we found out that there's way more things that the O2Trainer is doing for you.
Can you go into more detail about that?
Yeah, okay, so what happened was, a while ago, Belisa Vredic, I was talking about her earlier, the breathing expert. I was visiting her at her office on 5th Avenue in New York.
Nice.
And I'm coming in, and the first thing she did is measuring my chest expansion. And I knew why she did that. I will come back to that later. So she's measuring, and while I'm breathing in, and she goes like, you know, she does it again, and I'm expanding my chest again, and she says, one moment, and she walks out, she comes back with another doctor, and I go, what's going on? It's either really bad or really, really good, right? She says, well, if I wouldn't bring him, he's not going to believe what I'm going to show him now. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, normally when people break our record here, the expanding chest, it's like by a 1/4 inch. You just broke the record by more than 2 inches, which is it's a crazy amount. So now you ask yourself, how is that possible? Well, you are working out your muscles that are responsible for expanding your chest, the outside muscles of your core, your diaphragm, your back, and of course the intercostal muscles. There's no other breathing device that can do that. So this is it.
That is truly amazing. And what about those people that you see running in the masks?
Well, that device has resistance breathing in and out, which is not good, and that's why it had a bad review.
And why would that be?
Because when you breathe out with resistance, you can't completely empty your lungs. There will always be air left in your lungs, and therefore you cannot use your entire inspiratory system to fill it back up again. Now, if you breathe out with no resistance, you see, then you can use your entire inspiratory system to fill back up your lungs and work on your core, of course.
Well, okay, so that makes a lot of sense. And you said that you were strengthening the muscles you use to expand your chest. So is it safe to say that you can expand your chest further now?
Yes, you can.
Wow. And what does that do for your lungs?
Well, you're going to be able to pull more air into your lungs.
But isn't it true that you can't, shrink or grow your lungs? They're basically the same size.
No, you're 100% right. They come in a certain size. Some people have bigger lungs, smaller lungs, medium lungs, whatever it is. But think about this. When you're working out in a gym, right? For instance, your biceps, what happens? They start pumping up. Mm-hmm. Now, that means that when you train any muscle in your body with resistance, it will start pumping up. So now imagine you're doing a hard conditioning workout, right? And you're breathing in very fast at a high rate. So you start working those core muscles and they start to pump up. Now you have to understand, they don't only pump up to the front, they also pump up to the inside. Mm-hmm. So now the space inside your body, which is there for your lungs, it becomes more compact. Everything becomes more tight. And that means you cannot completely fill them back up with muscle, with air, of course. Also when the muscles between the ribs and the intercostal muscles that you hear, and of course the back muscles, when they are getting tight, it's going to be also hard for you to expand your chest, to fully extend. So once you train those outside muscles, which you do with the O2Trainer, I mean, that's the only way actually to train them. You can expand your chest more, and that means you can pull in more air. Oh wait, and there's another great thing, and we found this out because of the trainer from the 4 gold medalists. If you do the O2Trainer 2 times a day for 6 weeks, after 6 weeks you can maintain it by doing it 1 time a day. You take care of all the lactic acid in your core. Now people go like, what is that going to do for you? That's going to do an insane amount for you. That is like making all the muscles responsible for breathing super loose and relaxed. Nothing is tight. Complete expansion with every breath you're taking. So I think that will do more than the illegal drug EPO will do for you, which puts more red blood cells in your blood, and that's why it's illegal. Yeah. This will actually do more for you.
That's crazy. So why aren't more people doing this?
Well, I have no clue. I have to believe that it is because there's so much crap gets sold,
yeah.
And you think, okay, I buy this thing, you believe in this thing, and then once, it fails 2, 3, 4 times in a row, you're not really willing to buy a new thing anymore. People believe it's a gimmick, and it is not. I just hope that people look at my track record and that they realize I never sold a bad product. Every review, everything I sold, I always made sure also if people came to me with certain products, like a mouthpiece, I could have made a lot of money on that, but I didn't believe it. It had a hole in the middle, and I feel that the jaws need to be locked in. So I thought, nah, I'm not going to do that. I said no to it. It cost me a lot of money, but, I knew that it was going to get a bad review, which it did, you see.
Yep.
And then, of course, once that happens, people don't going to buy from you anymore because they think, hey, he already brought out a bad product. Why would I buy a new product?
I almost don't want to ask this, but I'm sure it does. Is there anything else that it can do for you?
It's so crazy. I never expected everything that was going to come out of it. The O2Trainer will actually force you to breathe the correct way.
But isn't breathing something that we instinctually know how to do? Because it's kind of the first thing we do when we're brought into life?
Yeah, you would think so. But Belisa Vranic, again, the woman I was talking about, she believes she did test 5 out of 100 people breathe the correct way. Think about it. So 95 are doing it wrong. I got this crazy story, and I had no clue. This is how I figured it out. LAPD SWAT officer, he wrote a review a bunch of years ago. And he said, listen, this is going to sound crazy what I'm going to write. He said, yesterday I was working out with the O2Trainer. Today I decided on my run not to use the O2Trainer. I broke my running time. And he says, this is crazy. I know it's impossible because I just used it one time. But then he said, I realized that it was forcing me to breathe through my core. And probably I was breathing wrong before, and working out for 30-40 minutes with the O2Trainer start teaching him to breathe the correct way. And that's why the next day when he was running and still breathing that way like he was doing with the O2Trainer, he was breaking his running time.
So it sounds like everybody needs one of these.
Well, that's what I believe as well. You know, think about this, the survival rule of 3. The survival rule of 3 states that the average human being can be 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 minutes without oxygen. We all pay attention to what we eat, what we drink. Nobody's paying attention to the number one priority inside your body. I mean, if you don't have oxygen for 3 minutes, you can literally die.
So it sounds like the O2Trainer would be really good for, people who are athletes, people, especially in the water, like divers, or people like me who do yoga.
For everybody it's good, and it's so funny because you mentioned the word diver. Mm-hmm. You know, I know Stig Severinsen. He's the world record holder holding breath. He's got a whole bunch of different records as well. How many minutes you think he can hold his breath? And just give me a high number because it's crazy. It's really crazy.
Okay, it's crazy?
Yeah.
Okay, 8 minutes.
22 minutes.
That's impossible.
No, yeah, but you Google this guy and you're going to find out that this is actually possible.
22 minutes.
Yeah, 22 minutes. A lot of people have heard about Wim Hof, right? The Iceman, as they call him. He's from Holland as well, the country where I come from. And this guy has been able to control his core temperature. You can pack him in ice and then he will actually bring up his core temperature. Nobody knows how he can do it. He's got unbelievable focus. But everybody also knows him from diving under ice. Well, that world record that he had, Stig, the guy I was just talking about, broke that world record, and then later he broke his own world record again. And this guy also has been focusing on breathing his entire life. You know, really check this guy out. Stig Severinsen, amazing. 22 minutes. This is crazy.
It seems like there's nothing it can't do. So is there anything else?
Yeah, you know, I didn't even know all these things that were going to come out. I mean, I knew it was good, but I didn't know it was going to be great. It's really great, all the things that's doing right now. We have people with COPD who are getting better. We had a guy with an incurable lung disease, 32% lung function. Now it's 67%. It helps with anxiety and PTSD. And when you think about that, it's kind of logic, because as soon as a person gets anxiety, they start breathing the wrong way. This will force you to breathe the correct way. It's just insane.
And one last question. Isn't it technically better to breathe out of your nose?
Oh, I'm so happy you asked that question, because it drives me nuts. People ask me all the time. No, you're right. You know, the O2Trainer makes your inspiratory muscles stronger. So once you're done with the O2Trainer, you can actually breathe better in through your nose. A lot of people think that if you do this under 4 minutes a day, it's going to teach me, it's going to unteach me, unlearn me how to breathe through my nose. It makes no sense to me. It's like almost saying, okay, so you go to the gym, you train, you work out your body with weights. You take those weights with you when you go on the street? No, of course you're not going to do that. You use it in the gym, you get stronger, and then you go outside. Same with the O2Trainer. You just use it to make your inspiratory muscles stronger, and then you're going to be able to breathe even better in through your nose. So there it is.
That's amazing. And I'm just going to finish it with anything more.
Okay. I'm not going to say anything anymore about this is it, because I figured out now in the last 8 years that it keeps on coming. Every time something new is popping up, like people have been saying, it helps them with their snoring. Right? I gave a professional singer from Lebanon his career back. Great review as well. I have a sax player, the sax player from the Eagles. Hey, for 18 years he was with the Eagles. He tells me he has longer and stronger notes. People have complaining, their wives complained that their voices get way louder, which I knew because that was my wife was complaining about that as well. But I trained with the O2Trainer, and we would go to a restaurant. Every time she would tell me, say, keep your voice down. I said, I'm not doing anything. And then I realized it's the O2Trainer. Also, if you have to sneeze using the O2Trainer, really watch out, because amount of power you get now, make sure you get a napkin, especially if you have a little drippy nose, because it will come out. It's so crazy. Another great thing is that when you have like phlegm in your lungs, you know, you're stuffy, your little allergy here and there, after the 30 repetitions, and again, you can read this on the private Facebook page, that other people have this as well, they start coughing up right away. So within 2 or 3 minutes after you did your 30 repetitions, everything will come out. So for now, I would say this would be everything that we got, but hopefully something more is going to come out.
What is the private Facebook account so that way I can go look at it and anybody watching can go and also look?
It's called Bas Rutten's O2 Bootcamp.
Okay.
Go there, you know, log it, ask a request and I will let you in, of course. And there, yes, you can see everybody else using it. Some people post videos as well. Some people are talking about it, and you know that everything that I'm telling you right now, that's actually 100% the truth.
Thank you so much, Bas, for sitting down with this interview with me. It's been truly a pleasure, and I would also love to take one of these because you have me sold. I mean,
done.
This is an amazing product, and thank you so much for taking the time.
You know what? I got one for you right away in the car, so you can start training on it, and bada bing, bada boom. I need a review.
I'll be typing it up. Thank you so much, Bas.
Okay, so the last thing that I want to say about this is just use your breathing exercises for the people at home, you know, just do that with it. We started out as working out with it, but then once I got in contact with the trainer from those 4 gold medalists, he says, just do the breathing exercises, because sometimes people, when they work out with it, some people have nothing, some people start drooling, other people have a dry mouth. Now, if it drools and you work out with it 3 times and you hate it drooling, you stop working out with it. I promise you, if you keep working out with it, your body adapts and you will stop drooling. Also, when you have a dry mouth, again, your body will adapt. In 2-3 weeks, suddenly that's not a problem anymore. So people only have to go through that hurdle if that happens. But to avoid all that, simply use the breathing exercises. You know, it takes you under 4 minutes a day. It's an easy thing to do. And if you really want to step it up, do it twice a day to get rid of that lactic acid that I was talking about in this interview.
I really want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming and letting me interview you. I feel like I've learned so much, not only about your amazing career and life, but about what you're doing now and how you're helping people. And I just think that that's really astonishing.
You're so awesome. Thank you for asking all the right questions. Thank you. Boom. There we go.
Oh my gosh, this doesn't.
Yeah.
Yay, this is really cool.